Let me show you how a brand spent over $100,000 on Google Ads and got almost nothing out of it. On paper, the account looked amazing. Purchases flowing in, high ROAS, low cost per click, and their agency saying to keep spending. In reality, the spend was doing almost nothing. Before we jump in, a bit of background. This was an established e-commerce company that had dominated their niche for years and was doing over 8 figures at one time annually. I was introduced to the founder last year because the business was starting to slow down. Most of their sales were happening on Amazon, and no-name, lower-priced alternatives were starting to rank well and beat their sales. Their agency recommended shifting focus to D2C Shopify sales using Google Ads. And I agree with the recommendation. If you want to compete on quality and build a long-term business, it's important to own your customer relationship. But when cash is tight, paid media needs a lot more scrutiny on what's actually driving incremental sales. After launching PMax and some search campaigns, everything was looking healthy inside the ad account. ROAS was strong, clicks were cheap, and conversions were high. But as spend increased, the founder didn't see Shopify revenue increase proportionally. That was the first red flag. The real issue is where the budget was being allocated. The majority of spend was going into Performance Max campaigns that were heavily biased towards branded queries and returning users, along with some search campaigns that leaned too broadly on brand adjacent keywords. The agency's logic was simple. If ROAS was good, keep spending. That was the mistake. Whether it was a lack of oversight or a misunderstanding of how Performance Max works, this could have been corrected earlier with tighter controls as revenue started flowing in. So why is spending on branded search bad? Branded search is not the same as demand creation. Most people searching for your brand already know you and were likely going to buy from you anyways. When you overspend on branded search, you're not growing the business. You're essentially paying Google to intercept customers who are already on their way to your site. Why does Performance Max make this worse? Performance Max can amplify the problem. Out of the box, PMax is designed to chase the easiest conversions. That usually means branded search and returning users if you have them. When that happens, ROAS looks good, spend scales, and incremental growth actually stays close to zero. Even when brands use brand exclusion lists inside of their PMax campaigns, I still see branded terms and brand adjacent terms all the time in PMax search results. Now, fortunately, Google has expanded the insights you can get from PMax and added more controls. So thank you, Google, and it's going down the right direction. We actually have enough PMax controls now to calibrate PMax campaigns to effectively target new users, but they have to be looked at regularly and recalibrated often. But why don't brand exclusion lists work as expected? This is something I see constantly. A company or an agency sets up the PMax campaigns with a high target ROAS in a brand exclusion list and assume they're safe. Just let it run. The problem is that brand exclusions are imperfect. Misspellings, product names, founder names, trademark technologies, and brand adjacent queries often slip through. Performance Max is very good at finding the easiest conversions. If it can meet your target ROAS, capturing those terms, or even a little bit of those terms, it will. Once it does, it can spend the rest of your budget across display, Discover, and YouTube without driving any meaningful incremental sales. Google is a public company fueled by ad revenue. The system is built to spend. But how do you tell if your Performance Max campaigns are capturing your branded demand? First, log into Google Ads, go to Campaigns, find your Performance Max campaign, click on it, go to Insights and Reports, and then open search terms. I'd recommend finding a date range that is going to show a nice level of spend. For this account, I've got January 1st to January 25th. Then sort your conversions column by highest to lowest by clicking on it. This will show you the terms that are driving conversions in your account. Again, if there's branded terms, misspellings, or any term that suggests someone already knows who you are and is just trying to find you, copy all of those keywords and we're going to add them as negative phrase match keywords to the campaign. To do that, come into Audiences and Keywords, click on Keywords, and you can either add negative keyword lists or negative keywords directly to the campaign. If you wanted to add them directly to the campaign, the easiest way would be to just click and say We're going to create new negative keywords and add to the Performance Max campaign. In this case, to make them phrase match, just put quotations around it. So for example, if we were Nike here, we would say, Nike would be a negative keyword. We might add in Nick, for example. We might add in Air Max, for example, as a product name. Again, if we have a brand exclusion list, it'll exclude the word Nike in most instances, but it won't exclude Air Max. It likely won't exclude, Air Jordans and other Nike related terms. You might even exclude it like this, any possible misspellings, how someone could mess up the word Nike. Even, for example, Nike, if someone was just typing this in quickly. Again, add all of those as negative keywords and keep an eye on your search term list. Again, it's different to note that keywords are different than search terms. Search terms are what are getting matched to your keywords. So you have to look at your search terms regularly, and then you can add them in as negative keywords later on. Next, check out your campaign settings just to make sure you're targeting new customers. So come into your Performance Max campaign, click on Edit Campaign, come in and find your customer acquisition. Click on it, go to Adjust your bidding to help acquire new customers, and then bid only for new customers. Save that setting. Next, let's just double check that you're using your brand exclusion list. So come in, click on Brand Exclusions. You can click Add Brand Lists. You can add a new brand list. And in the Nike example, and let's just say Nike, we're going to type in the brand and Nike.com is going to come up. You could add more Nike websites if you wanted, but again, we want to make sure those keywords are also added, any brand adjacent ones. But this is just the basics of ways to protect yourself in the Performance Max campaign settings. How do you tell if you're overspending on branded search overall? Here's a few simple checks. First, look at what percentage of your total spend is going to branded search. If it's more than 10 to 20% for most e-commerce brands, that's a big red flag. Second, compare branded spend growth to total revenue growth. If branded spend keeps rising overall, but overall revenue stays flat, you're likely paying for demand that already exists. You can actually see this in Google Analytics too. If, as you're spending more on branded search, your organic search from Google is going down because more of those users are clicking Google Ads. That's definitely something to watch out for. And third, look at your new customer metrics. If spend is increasing, but new customer volume isn't, that's another early warning sign. So what's a healthy level of branded spend? There's no perfect number, but branded spend should be defensive and not aggressive. For most brands, I usually recommend anywhere from 1 to 10% of the Google Ad spend be spent on branded. You want to spend enough to protect your brand, get the added insights, and control your messaging, but not so much that it becomes overweighted in your ad account, taking spend away from tactics that are actually driving incremental revenue for the business. The fix itself was straightforward. First, we capped branded spend and tightened match types in those search campaigns so that there were no branded queries slipping through. Then we focused on the PMax campaign. We wanted to make the PMax campaign work harder to hit the ROAS targets and find new users. To do this, we wanted to negate out every possible branded misspelling, every product name, any brand adjacent term or trademark technologies that the brand had. We went through that search list, again, sorted it by conversions, and pulled out all of those terms. We then took out the main keywords and added them as negative phrase match keywords at the campaign level. That forced the system to actually find new users because it didn't have those easy conversions that weren't driving incremental revenue, inflating their ROAS. Then with the budget saved, we launched additional non-branded search campaigns with a tight keyword structure, and we launched some top-of-funnel video campaigns to help reach new users and generate new demand. We warned the brand that ROAS was going to go down after we did this, and of course it did. But incremental revenue started to increase. When we started looking back, period over period and year over year, they were spending the same, but actually driving more revenue on the site because we were driving new users and incremental demand. Overall, it's not about just getting a high ROAS in your ad account. It's about knowing whether that spend is actually driving incremental revenue and is actually healthy for the business. So if you're spending heavily on branded search or heavily on performance max and something doesn't feel right, growth feels stuck, this is often why. If this was helpful, subscribe for more real examples like this. Most ad accounts don't fail because of bad tactics. They fail because they're measuring the wrong thing. Keep growing and see you next time.